from a performing standpoint, there's a lot of amazing performers. So to me, it's always been about the writing. Great writing can take an average speaker and make them a great speaker. The vast majority of how I've written throughout the years are I have a kernel of an idea, then I try it out on stage. And depending upon how the audience reacts, if a pen goes to paper, if there's a nod, if somebody turns to somebody else, oh, there's something there, keep working this thing.
Welcome to the podcast that helps speakers and writers like you grow their impact and income. This is Stage, Page, and Screen. I have lots of nerdy questions about the craft that I think you'll enjoy. Here's my first one. I was listening to a conversation you were having on the NSA podcast. You were talking about how back in April, you and your wife took your 3 grandkids to see The Lion King, and you were kind of noting how that touring company of The Lion King worked in some local references to Minnesota. And you were saying how important that is for us as speakers, which you and I would both agree with. My question about that, I want to go a little bit further on that idea, is what percentage of customization in your mind are you thinking is that sweet spot where you're really honoring the client, really serving them, really being in service of them, but not customizing so much that you move past the point of kind of your expertise and those greatest hits and those really kind of dependable moments that they're bringing you in for? So how do you think about that balance?
Great question. Going back to Lion King with my grandkids, 10-year-olds and 8-year-old, and they brought it up of the hits that were in the show tailored to the audience. And I'm not sure if it's a matter of celebrity or how famous a person is that when they drop in customization has more of an impact, or if it's for any audience. It just reminded me how important it is to an audience. Because I've seen speakers that do not refer to the speaker before them, do not refer to the city, do not refer to the audience, don't even talk about the company. They just do their piece. And it's just like, you've got to be kidding me. So you're right. There is a balance there between the audience wants to know you're there for them. The audience doesn't want to know that, hey, I was in Atlanta yesterday and I'll be in Boston tomorrow. They want to know you're there for them. I mean, it's like, Susie and I just celebrated our 47th wedding anniversary. And I heard a speaker that did that. He said, I just came working with GM, a big company, GM in Detroit. I'm sorry, I've got to leave early because I'm on my way to Atlanta. And I just thought to myself, if I'd sat with Sue and said, I was with an amazing woman last night, Olympic athlete, just incredible. And I'm with twins tomorrow, but tonight you're kind of special.
Yeah, you were briefly special in my heart.
So I think it's the matter of, it's not that you have to understand their company, their school, their challenge, as much as you have to acknowledge it, that you're there for them. And how you do that with your customization is up to your style.
Has there ever been a situation where you're on that pre-event call or conversation with the client, you're kind of, maybe you misinterpreted that they wanted you to just really customize a ton of it, and you customize too much? Has there ever been a situation where you customize so much that then looking back, you go, that was a situation where the client and the audience actually didn't get the best of me because I sort of capitulated too much trying to be of service? Can you go too far with that?
Sure you can. I mean, the audience lives it every day. You're there for one presentation. Unless you're on a consulting contract with them for a couple of years, how can you possibly understand what they're going through? It depends upon whether it's education or whether it's a business association. From my business background, they're just asking, what are your challenges? When people are leaving, what 1, 2, or 3 things do they need to know as they leave that event? What are the key objectives for this event? Why are you getting together? And in the time that I have, what core messages can I support? So I'm always there to support where they want to go, not take them in a different direction.
And then you said,
Does that make
depends on
sense?
if yeah, you said it depends on if it's business or education. Do you kind of hold that same mindset if it was an education client as well, or do you approach that in a slightly different manner?
I always ask, business does a pre-event call, education typically does not. And so when I'm on site to visit with superintendent, the building principal, I mean, the question is, how can I best support you? What can I do within my messages to support, what do you want to have happen here? In this hour, in this in-service, yeah, it's the same question asked just a little bit different way. But yeah, early on when I was doing student assemblies, my last student assembly was 2015, and then I switched over totally. But I'd ask a principal in the early days, how can I best support you? Hey, just keep their attention and get them fired up. But then those are like a really old school principles. And now the newer ones, how can I best support you? They'll talk about, hey, look, Mark, these are our 4 core values. Boom, 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 boom. If you can tie into 3 out of 4 or even 4 out of 4, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Here's our biggest educators today are much more focused on what that message needs to be for their kids. They're not just saying, hey, let's bring in a speaker and take a little break here.
Here's my last question on this customization piece. So let's think about the business side of what you're doing now, because I know that's primarily the audiences that you're talking to. If I was to follow you to 3 different cities, 3 different clients, 3 different speeches, how similar would each of those speeches be? Because I'm wanting to give sort of a perspective to listeners who are a bit newer, knowing kind of how much they should customize based on how much a Emmy award winning Hall of Fame speaker is customizing his message.
That goes back to how I work, and I've always worked. Meaning, if I'm listening to a speaker, my habit or what I typically do is I've got a sheet of paper in front of me, and I'm creating an outline of their presentation. I want to know up front what their premise is. They should be telling me that. And I want to be able to easily outline what's the point, what are the sub stories, what's the point, what are the support stories. And the better the speaker, the clearer the outline is, both for the speaker and for me. I mean, if they've got total clarity, so do I. And there are a lot of speakers that I just give up outlining because I have no idea where they're going. I don't think they do either. They're just throwing some stories in that they like, and it doesn't support their premise whatsoever. But the story about the roller coaster ride always was great in the past, so get some laughs. It should work now. So let's just, a quick outline. My presentation now, nice bike, creating meaningful connections with other people, supported by acknowledging, honoring, and connecting. All right, let's go to acknowledge. What's that mean? That means to be to be there, to be fully connected to somebody else, to acknowledge them, to give them value, to know that they're heard and listened to. Now, depending upon the group that I have, under acknowledge, I've got about 30 stories that I can pick. And so we depend upon the client, the industry, the setting, the time of the day, opener, closer. I will select one of those 30 stories under acknowledge. You with me so far?
Absolutely.
Honor is the same thing. Connect is the same thing. About 30 stories for each one of those major categories. The story you'll hear me tell will be pretty close each time. Go back to my meat raffle story. It's Minnesota-based, kind of quirky. The meat raffle story would be told pretty much the same, although there'll be different ad libs because I want to keep it alive for me. But when I tell the story and then I support it, the transition to get from meat raffle to Pilot Flying J story, that transition piece is where I'm make it up on the spot, ad lib, fill in the blank with their company, their needs that day, that audience. Do you get it? So when you ask me, if you trail me on 3 different speeches, You'll see some pieces that are done exactly the same, but it's that transition that's going to be constantly new, fresh, and different based upon the audience and the setting and what's happening.
Now, I know that you hold the belief that anyone can perform, but it's really the writing that is the key. And we hear that echoed in that even in your three main points, you've got 30 pieces that you could pull. That's I'm no math major, but that's 90 pieces. So can you dig into how you approach as a speaker the writing? You get some kind of nugget of an idea. Okay, maybe this, you're on a walk, you're doing something. Maybe this could be something. There's an initial draft. Like, at what are you then maybe weaving it in the middle of a speech somewhere so that let me see how this lands, and if it doesn't land that well, no big deal. I know the rest of the speech is going to be pretty solid. How do you both kind of write the idea and then begin to nurture and develop it to determine, is this something that's going to be helpful and clever and engaging to an audience, or just something that I thought maybe was a good idea that isn't?
I mean, stage, page, screen, pretty good. Page is the meat. That's it. Do you guys go to Broadway shows?
Yes.
And they're young people performing. They really are, in the 20s, 30s, and they are amazing. Talk about stagecraft. A touring company, whether it's in New York on Broadway or whether it's in Minneapolis with Lion King, my God, the talent. I could never even come close to that level of talent. So, I mean, from a performing standpoint, there's a lot of amazing performers. So to me, it's always been about the writing. Great writing can take an average speaker and make them a great speaker because of what they accomplish for the audience. I saw Seinfeld a few years back. I was in the third row, and I didn't laugh the first 20 minutes because I was in awe. I mean, my jaw was, it was just, why Seinfeld? Why did I bring him up? Because Seinfeld is disciplined. He writes every day. If you ever seen the documentary, The Comedian, which is required viewing for any speaker, about the process of writing, how painful it can be, that he did at the top of his career, at the top of the show Seinfeld, and he said, I'm going to write a new show. I when it comes to my writing, it's a combo between taking some time when I feel a creative mood or even when I don't, and just try to come up with something. Or the vast majority of how I've written throughout the years are I have a kernel of an idea, then I try it out on stage. And depending upon how the audience reacts, if a pen goes to paper, if there's a nod, if somebody turns to somebody else, oh, there's something there, keep working this thing. I mentioned it in the interview you talked about. I forgot the comedian's name from England.
I think you were talking about, was it Ricky Gervais?
Yeah.
Yes.
2 points. Nice job. I mean, Gervais's quote was, I feel people that see my show the first couple of nights because it's so much better after 50 shows. Mm-hmm. And he's right. I mean, think of some of your material that you've done, Josh, that's core to your message about one adult can significantly change a child's life. And there's some core message you'll do every time because it's crafted now. It's you found the sweet spot. You might have a short version of it or an expanded version of it, but that core message, because you've said it 1,000 times, where it's really honed.
So let's go even deeper here. So you said, you're first you get an idea, then you're gonna try it out on stage. You said that's kind of your playground for field testing the idea. Then you said, if it goes well, if they turn to each other, if they write something down, then you develop it a little more. Does that mean then you get off stage, kind of write it down a little more? Like, ooh, I ad-libbed a line here, that went well. Let me capture this in writing before I forget it? Or does that mean, okay, now I'm going to, I got another speech in 4 days. I'm going to try it again there.
Yeah. I mean, you jot it down in the notebook. Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm interview. One of the worst things that ever happened to him was when he lost his notebook. Mm-hmm. Because it's gone. Yeah, in the moment you come up with some really great stuff, but a week later, oh my God, what was that line? I don't know.
Yeah. And then you talked about you were referencing some of my material, but you talked about once you've done it 100 times, 1,000 times, it gets tight. It's very engaging. You know what those kind of emotional pivot points are. My question here, and this will more so relate to the more seasoned speakers that might be listening to our conversation. What are you doing at that point when it's a story that's central, that's key, that is one of those stories in the service of the audience you're going to need to tell quite frequently, and you start to get how do you protect yourself from you getting tired of it, you getting worn out of it, you going, okay, this one again, and now you tell it with 90% effort and then 88% effort. How do you protect against that decay of it's their first time hearing it, it's your 73rd time delivering it?
Great questions, Josh. You're from California, aren't you?
Via Oklahoma.
Yeah, but you're in California now?
Correct.
Is that the Lakers?
That's one of the teams, yes. And the Jackhammers. We also have the Jackhammers, Mark.
LeBron?
Don't forget about that.
Is it LeBron that's with the Lakers?
So you picked the wrong sport, Mark. I can give you baseball analogies, but you go ahead and take this ball and run with it solo, okay? Jesse, you got any Laker knowledge?
I'm guessing LeBron sits on the bench every now and then. Does LeBron play every minute?
No.
No, he sits on the bench for a while. Take some of your best material and have the courage to put it on the bench and give it a rest. That's one way. Number two, do a shorter version or a longer version of it. Have different versions. Or move it to a different place in the presentation. You always had it up here, move to the middle. See what happens. It feels different. Another piece is to have someone like my wife, Susan, who's the best speech coach in the world. And Susie listens to me and tells me, you're getting really rote on that Maslow thing, food, water, shelter, safety, security. And once the core basic needs are met, I mean, it's a quick reference. I'm not big at it anyway, but she said, you're being rote on that. Because I don't know I'm rote, but she does. Because she hears me a lot and sits in the back of the room. And so what I'll do is I'll change the words around just to stump myself. Food, shelter, water, security, the pyramid.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
the Lakers.
And the biggest thing is, and this is true of you, you're an original. It's your own material that you love the best. And it's like, I'm known for going after speakers that steal my material. I hunt them down. Because my material, that's like my children. Hurt my kids, I go after you. Same is true with my material. I'll go after them. Because it happens.
It does, yes.
There's a lot of ways to keep it fresh. Number one, if it's yours, your original. Number two, if you give it a rest. Number three, if you change it and adapt it. Number four, if you just kind of mix it up a little bit. Choose your timing.
Yeah, I definitely feel that mix it up a bit. I find if I can even just write a tag to a story and a new additional tag or a new additional lead in, that I'll feel a little bit of that giddiness, that uncertainty, that excitement of like, this might go great, this might be crickets. And then it kind of, I find, recenters me in the appropriate emotional earnestness of like what I'm about to do versus let me just hit play on this next thing and just go through it. So I'd love that approach.
I learned during my school assemblies, which is a really challenging audience, and that's where you cut your teeth and you pay your dues. I was doing 3 shows a day, like you, 3-4 days a week at times. And so when it's your last presentation and you're staying in bad motels, they don't put you up in Marriott's. They put you up at a hotel that's close to the school and supposed to be clean. You'd be tired. I remember one time where I forgot a segment And I went, oh my gosh, I forgot that. I have to say that. So I brought it back later on just because I thought I had to. And it made no difference whatsoever to the audience. They didn't know the show. And I went, it was a huzzah moment. I can mix this up any way I want as long as it has clarity and it's supporting the premise. I can move things around. So I think it's a matter of a lot of experimenting, a lot of playing in the sandbox, a lot of just keep pushing until you find the right words, the right story, the right impact.
I want to tap into your experience as one of the founding fathers of the youth space. I know you've done 3,500 plus schools.
I don't know if it's founding fathers as much as it was just supply and demand.
Well, certainly in my eyes. I'll put you on the Mount Rushmore of that.
Yeah, don't do that. Very few speakers and a lot of schools. So I was fortunate to hit it at the right time.
Well, going back to those days, I had this experience just recently. I haven't spoken to students in probably 10 years.
You haven't?
No, I'm involved in my active day-to-day is two things right now. Number one, I run an education speakers bureau.
I'm familiar.
And we represent roughly 40 kind of folks that were like, the Joshes, what I was doing, speaking to students. And then I speak, the speaking that I do is just to teachers and staff.
Okay.
So that kind of one caring adult message to that group.
Why did you stop speaking to students?
The honest answer, I felt unchallenged. I felt unchallenged. Sarah and I had just had kids. There was a period of time where, I certainly had a period of immaturity and ego when I first started speaking to youth. It was a little bit of on-stage therapy, not in what I was saying, but the reaction I would receive. So I kind of went through that period, and then I went through a period where I felt like I am honoring what this opportunity is, and I felt like my tone and angle to that student audience was sort of big brother and then eventually uncle. Okay. But then I started getting older. Then Sarah and I have our first kid. And it was clear to me, there was a period of time where I knew what they were into because I was pretty close to that age. I knew the fears, the frustrations, the concerns, because I was close to that age, or I felt at least still a part of that world, maybe towards the tail end of it, but a part of that world. And then I started noticing, when I'm going out to dinner with my friends, we're talking about parenting, the frustrations of that, marriage, adult life, mortgages, so the things that I just found myself fascinated by, the books I was reading, the podcasts I was listening to, none of that was any longer in sort of the youth space. It was more so now about the adults that surround that space. And so it was a combination of, I wanted to do something different. A lot of folks, like yourself, who wanted to do something different, their next step was going to corporate. I thought that's interesting. That's great for some folks. I don't think that's going to be my thing. I still very much love and do love the youth and education space, but I know speaking to that particular audience wasn't going to be it. Felt like every event I ever wanted to talk at in the youth space I had done. I felt no longer challenged, and I wanted to go back to that Seinfeld documentary that I was very inspired by too. I wanted to go back to a blank canvas. I wanted to kind of start over. And so that was a bit of it for me.
It makes sense.
So to circle back to my question. So about a week ago, I'm speaking to a group of teachers and staff, maybe 800 folks in a gym. Can you talk about the nuances of how you would approach these two different environments, right? You got the gym and then you got the auditorium. And I don't know if this is broken thinking, but to me, I go, man, if you give me that same audience in an auditorium and I deliver at the same level it's going to go at minimum 15% better. I felt myself, even just a week ago in the gym, trying to get louder. I felt like I lost a lot of that nuance, that subtlety, that drawing them in versus trying to push out to capture them, because there's so much nonsense and complexities and audio issues that are a distraction. Thinking back to your days in schools, and one week you're in the most glorious, beautiful auditorium you've seen, and then the next you're in a gym with students surrounding you, and the speakers are made for basketball, not for oration. Do you recall any either things you would have to tell yourself to be ready for that environment, or techniques or tricks you had for those environments?
A lot. I mean, you're right. Speaking in a performing arts center or theater, it's butter. I mean, it's just you need the audience seated in the front third, not in the front row, but you need to be in the front third. Educators will typically not move.
Yeah.
I've stopped asking them to move because they just look at you and go, "No." um, Gymnasiums are incredibly challenging. That's why I said that speaking to students in gyms was the best training ground in the world, is paying your dues. And so you just, and every doggone gym is different. The seating in the gym is different. There's just so many variables. You've got to be bigger in a gym without being too big for the audience.
Yes. Well, I recall that when I saw you in Washington at this Jostens event, it was a gentleman, I can't recall his name, it was a gentleman that would take you, at least offer to take you out on snowmobiles. He was a well-known, well-established Jostens rep up there in Washington, pulled together, a bunch of schools. That event that we were at together was in a gym. And I recall, even to this day, your ability to keep the subtlety. So maybe your energy was bigger that day than it would have been if we were in a theater, but you didn't feel desperate the way I have sometimes caught myself going, my goodness, I am really swimming upstream here. Is that just a trust in yourself of like, let me not get too, like, I can bring them to me versus I got to project out and get them?
It's a really interesting question, Josh. That's an hour discussion itself, and how you play a gym versus a theater. Of how do you make an audience of 2,000 in a gym feel like an intimate
Yes.
experience?
Yes.
And I think there are. I mean, after the thousandth, 2,000 times you've worked in a gym, you just have a feel. It's like anyone that works at something enough times where it just comes natural. And there are tactics, there are techniques, there are things you can teach others. But to me, it was always the best situation in gym were people on three sides and never in the round,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
playing it like a figure skater or a gymnast that has got to play to the whole room. I mean, picking special spots, the eye contact, the under knowing your material. I think the biggest thing is knowing your material so well, knowing your message, knowing where you want to go so well. Your focus is totally on the audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not what's next. It's not, it's having enough clarity where it's that eye contact you have with different corners of the room, the people you go back to, and controlling it. It's a lion tamer. And to have enough confidence to be the lion tamer, but not an ego, I guess. And sometimes there's a fine difference between those two.
Was there ever a period for you, because there certainly was for me, where you struggled with that ego piece, be it early in the youth space? Was there ever that, or every time I've ever seen you, there's just been a sincerity that bleeds through your presentation? But was there a period of time before I saw you where there was a bit too much ego in your tone, your delivery, or just even internal hubris in yourself?
Absolutely. Because you start to believe, when a student comes up and they're 16 and they say, "You're the best speaker I've ever heard in my life." Early on, you go, "Wow, thanks." And you get older, you go, "You've only heard 3 speakers.
Right.
I'm one of them." Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You take it with a grain of salt. I've had the ego beaten out of me by really tough audiences. I don't remember the really good ones, but I remember every one of them where it was just, I've been beaten up so bad. There's no ego left, and the other, yeah, but there was one turning point where we were booking like a year in advance at that time, and everything was going great. And we had our third child, and I told Sue I had a local program, and I said, "You know what? I'm not hitting. The ball's going up, but it's not hitting the rim. It's just something's off. Can you come and see me?" And she did. And at the end, we went out for coffee. She said, "You're arrogant as they get. That kid up in the bleachers up on the top that yelled something out, you way overreact to that. You're rushing your presentation. You look like you've done this a million times. You're coming out like you're a gift to them, and you better change your attitude as far as what you're doing, because we have 3 kids in a house and a mortgage, and this is all we've got. So get it together, Buttercup." And so she beat the hell out of me, and she was absolutely right. And I kind of went back and did a restart, and that was a turning point.
Hi, friends. It's Jesse Rice, co-host and producer of the podcast. Normally, you'd hear from Josh at this point, offering you the opportunity to learn more about how to launch or grow your speaking business or write and publish your book. But since I also edit the podcast, I just cut his part right out. That gives me the opportunity to do the pitching, but from the perspective of someone who is a former student of the program and someone that has benefited tremendously from the wisdom and experience and the countless practical insights that make the Stage, Page, and Screen training program so powerful. Look, Josh isn't paying me to say this. I do it for the community service hours. My point is, and all kidding aside, as one that has truly benefited in massive, life-changing, dream-come-true kind of ways from this content, I can't recommend Stage, Page, and Screen highly enough. And I really mean that. To go and learn more for yourself about making your speaking and writing dreams come true at stagepagescreen.com. That's stagepagescreen.com. Now, back to the show.
I look back, and there were many forms in which my own ego and immaturity didn't serve me, didn't serve the audience. A particular one that I remember that I struggled with, and I'd like your perspective on how you think of this now, which there was a period of time, probably again those first 5 years, where my only thinking was, so to me there's kind of 2 customers in a speech. There's the client, that's the person that risks their reputation and the check to bring you there. And then there's the audience, the folks in the seats that you're actually going to talk to. And early on, 100% of my focus was on the audience. Because again, I wanted them to like me, I wanted the laugh, I wanted the feedback, I wanted all those things. Such that those early years, not considering the themes, not considering, hey, here's a key core message that's tied to a grant. The only reason we're able to bring you in here is tied to a grant. So like, you've got to say this sentence. I didn't pay attention to any of that. Not proud of that. It's what it was. So it was only about the audience. And now as I've slowly, painfully beaten out of me, as you said, matured, I recognize the balance of this. I'm curious now, how would you rank these things? Kind of serving the client versus serving the audience. I know if you serve the client, you serve the audience. If you serve the audience, you serve the client. But how do you rank these? Because every once in a while, and in all sincerity, I can say I think I'm in a healthier, more mature place. But every once in a while, you'll get a well-intended client who says, this, we want to communicate this thing. And you, because of your professional expertise, you go, okay, if you want them to hear that, we need to approach it from this way. So there are these subtle instances where you kind of have to do a little bit of jujitsu to get them what they want, because what they're asking for, isn't actually going to go well with the audience. So do you ever find yourself in these situations? And how do you think of that ranking of serving the audience and serving the client? This is a chicken or an egg, but which comes first? Which is most important?
I think I answered that earlier. When you meet with the client, be it education or business, how can I best serve you? How can I best support you? What core values, what message, what challenges are you facing that I can support you within my presentation? And they'll tell me, and they will hear those words within my presentation during those transitions that I talked about, of getting from point A to point B, that little wander space. I will weave those in there because you can do both. You can serve the client, you can serve the audience. I don't think that's a challenge. Do you?
No. Every once in a while, there will be a client that. So I'm thinking of a situation right now. This isn't my event; it's one of our speakers. The pre-event call is with 8 folks from a large education organization. Okay, so first off, you got 8 cooks in the kitchen. Correct.
Horrible. There should only be
agreed. But you got 8 cooks in the kitchen because that's kind of, hey, yeah, we want all these people to weigh in. Okay, it's your event, it's not mine.
Yeah.
And then you go around and ask them, hey, tell me the single line that everyone's got to walk out with. What is that? What is that key message? Okay, let's go around the room. All 8 of you on Zoom. Let's go around the room. You get 8 different messages. And so it's sometimes like those situations that I go, that's where you have to not just immediately take it, but kind of push them to go, hey, these are all interesting ideas, but I heard 8 of them. Can the 8 of y'all talk? Come up with that one key message and then let me know, and then I will absolutely deliver that for you. So it's those kind of unusual circumstances that, again, I feel like you would we can get in these conversations that a lot of speakers don't have the opportunity to talk with other folks that aren't in this business.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you came up with the right answer. It's you. So yeah, it's. So what I hear you saying is, of these 8 different ideas, what the best I could do is, I think 3 would be great. One would be wonderful, but 3. So what do you all think? Yeah, I mean, your answer was correct.
Well, can you test it out with them? Can you say, I think what you're saying is, what I heard was these 3 things.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're trying to get at this point? It's another way you could lead them, kind of lead them into
the same conversation you have with your kids and your spouse. And hey, so I hear what you're saying is, I should maybe do a dish. I should help out. Okay.
So again, you are without a doubt one of my favorite speakers to watch, Mark. I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that to be polite. There's 3 aspects that if someone said, well, why is he so good? I would say there's 3 things I see from my perspective. There's an ability to be that orchestra conductor with the audience where there's moments of just joyous laughter. There's moments where people just feel seen. There's and understood. There's moments where folks are jotting down ideas. and just a real nice orchestraic performance of that's just woven throughout. So that's aspect one. But then the other thing is, and this I rarely see, there's a high level of sincerity and earnestness and a high level of performative stagecraft. And often when you get the performative stagecraft guys, they come across vaudevillian, not human. Or if you get the really earnest guys, you go, man, they could use a breaking ball. You know, they got the fastball, but like a little bit of a curveball, little bit of pizzazz would do them well. So an aspect, it's a very specific question I have about this, because I want to know how you think about this. The Minnesota accent when you're speaking versus like when I'm talking to you now. I feel like on stage, I feel like the Minnesota accent is kind of turned up 10%. Is that, do you feel like that is an accurate kind of assessment? Is that intentional? How have you thought about a performative aspect like that without taking it too far that then it becomes insincere?
Well, thanks for all that. It's very sweet. I don't know if I think it through that much. I there are people that in the profession that are humorists that can tell you about comedy and why it works and how it works and different techniques and tell you how to create comedic moments. There are others that they say something, it's funny, and people laugh and they go, that was good. I come from that camp of saying something, and you know, part of it is I was a huge fan of old time radio shows back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and of just listening to a story, audio only, and having the images come alive. I've always been fascinated. I love creating characters. And so instead of a visual of a tree up on the stage behind me, I'll just talk about the tree. I mean, I'd rather tell the story than I know. I'm. It's not that I'm against visual support. I think it's very important. You use some visual support that you did in your videos, and I think it really is important. It's just for me, I have a different technique. So, I mean, I don't know how to answer your question. The Minnesota thing, I know that when I'm telling a Minnesota-based story, that'll come out a couple of times. And it might seem like I'm using the Minnesota accent a bit more. I think it's mainly because those are a meat raffle story, a different nuances in the presentation. But
and that's kind of where it is geographically, that story.
I mean, it's like asking a painter, how do you paint? I don't know. I just take a canvas and I paint. It's not like I need to use these three colors because they work this way together, right? You create something and then you continually play with it, adapt it, twist it, tweak it, put it to rest, try it back, and it's just fun. I really have fun with my stories. I really have. I really think that, you know, it's when you, and I know this has happened for you, Josh, the fact you've been in the business for a while. There are speakers that somebody hears them, they go out to the pool to see their buddy who's misses the session. And the buddy by the pool goes, how was the speaker? It's really good. What they talk about? I know, it's just a good presentation. Well, people should be able to remember the hook, the line, a feeling, a week, a month, a year afterwards. There should be something there that makes them think, feel, act, do something different than when they came to the presentation. It's a simple example of Mount Everest. There's a speaker that talks about climbing Mount Everest and shows videos, and it's fascinating and everything they learned about it. Then there's the same speaker that tells us climb the same mountain, Mount Everest, but here's what I learned about it, and here's how that can impact you as far as the decisions you make, right? Um, I've said it before, but the Broadway show Kinky Boots, right? There's a great line in it where two of the main characters are talking, and one character says yada 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 yada, and the other one says, "Hey, tell you what, when you get to the part about me, let me know, will you?"
Yeah.
That's our audience. Our audiences are all sitting out there saying, "Let me know when you get to the part that's about me. I'm happy you went to Everest, cool, but let me know when it gets about me." Susie always says, "Just remember." Her advice is always, everybody in the audience has got a little sticker on their head that says, "So what?" So you better answer that question. And number two, it's about them, not about you. And number three, be nice. Just be nice to them.
Well, you're one with empathy and one without. The one is really rooted in the audience, and one is the impact they're going to take away, or versus I'm going to impress you with my storytelling ability or my story itself. Or
the one thing that's really helped me, especially post-pandemic, because speaking was taken away from us. Before I go on now, I honestly have a conversation with myself of what if this is my last presentation ever? I don't know, but what if this is the last one? Because we never know. Life changes.
Yeah.
And so how will that impact what I'm doing on stage today? And that question alone has remarkably changed how I feel about where I'm at on stage.
So here's another assessment I want to make, and then a question, and feel free to disagree if my assessment is off. There are speakers that I've seen that seem to focus first and foremost on clever, creative marketing. And I would say there was a period of time where I was guilty of that fascination and putting that as priority A1. And there are a variety of reasons for that, partly because it's, the speech is so tied to yourself, your own kind of issues, baggage, how you're showing up, personal psychology, that marketing feels once removed from me. Whereas the craft and writing and the delivery and what is my tone like, and am I showing up to serve or to impress, that's all internal, and so it's quite uncomfortable. My assessment, and again, disagree if there are things going on behind the scenes I don't know, but my assessment of your career and the trajectory and success has been that you have focused largely on the craft, on writing, on the delivery. On the marketing, you've done the necessities, but it doesn't seem that you have chased down the road of the variety of marketing distractions speakers can get either baited by or distracted by. Number one, do you think that's a fair assessment? And if that is a fair assessment, how has that played into your success?
Totally accurate. You're right on target. We do the bare necessities. And let's face it, you can come up with a demo video, but it's the gong show. Here's what you need to do as a young speaker or a veteran speaker. Sit down and watch 30 demo videos. Go online and watch 30 demo videos over a very compacted time period. That's what your clients are doing. It's the gong show. It's 30 seconds. If you can get them for 45 seconds, if they're in there for 2 minutes, you might have a chance. But I don't know how many speakers just sit back and watch video after video after video after video, and people start to look and sound the same. That's number one. Number two, so we do the bare necessities, but our belief has always been, Susan and I, Sue runs the business. Every audience we have, there's somebody in that audience that can bring us to the next opportunity. So if your stage, page, and screen, boom, come together, and somebody comes up to you and says, "We'd love to have you speak," or my husband has a company that, or, it's just, so our strongest marketing has been just really try to be good on stage. and the opportunities will follow.
And, as you look back at the speaking space, do you feel there has been an over fascination and over kind of getting distracted by the marketing? And, would you encourage like, hey, if you shave off half of the time you're doing more marketing and put it into your craft, it is that craft that would actually go out and do the marketing for you?
I know I'm being beaten to the punch by people that market better than I do. Yeah, I mean, should we have been the perfect package of stage and marketing? That'd be ideal, wouldn't it? But I believe in simplification. My office is this laptop. There's no office here. It's go out, do a presentation, come home. Keep it clean, keep it simple. We don't have staff. Jess, you're amazing. We want to keep it very bare bones, very simple, and clean and focused. So, yeah, I could hire marketing, I could do all those sort of things, but it's been a good run. It's work,
Yeah.
and I mean that's the biggest thing at the end. What works for you, right? And supply and demand goes back to the early days. I was super busy back in the early days because supply and demand. I literally a handful of speakers, and you turn out 30 speakers a year, 100 speakers a year, and so to cut through that clutter, a high school principal, a school board member, how many brochures, how many calls, how many emails are they going to get a year from speakers that all have good testimonials, that all have a video of people saying that's the best thing I've ever heard? I don't know. I just have an impact on stage with an audience for the client and for the audience, and you'll do okay.
Mm-hmm. You talked about, go out, do the speech, come home. You mentioned you've been married now 47 years.
Yes.
I want to ask you some marriage advice in this unusual profession.
How long have you been married, Sarah?
Let's see. Hold on. 22 years.
Well, that's great.
22 years.
Good for you.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. There's a particular aspect of this business and marriage that I find challenging, and I'd love your perspective on it with your 47 years of marriage, which is you go out, you do a speech, and while you're on site, it's, right this way, Mr. Scharenbroich. Here's a bottle of water, Mr. Scharenbroich. Here's a round of applause, Mr. Scharenbroich. That was so great. Would you come to our thing? There's sort of those moments at those events, and it's not like the client is trying to mess up your marriage, but it can, they're being very gracious, overly kind, kind of too much so. Everything is kind of done for you. Here you go. Here's this. Thank you so much. And then I have found if I'm not careful, as I'm coming home, I can still kind of come to expect that instead of, okay, my wife's been with the kids. Now I'm here to chip in. Like I'm here to give her some relief. I'm here to serve, not, I'm not a hired gun just showing up for this thing that they've been excited about. Does that transition to, in early years or even today, is that something that you found a tricky transition? Are there any tricks or things you have told yourself to make sure you don't fall into that trap?
Sweet question. Number one, 48 years ago, I just told myself I want to marry someone that I respect a lot, that's bigger than I am, that I can look up to. And I found that in Sue. That helps. Number two, when I was really busy and after doing a lot of presentations in 1 week and come home, I would come home tired. And Sue just took me off the side one time and said, we have 3 little kids. And when you come home, I want you to be excited for them as you are for the audience. So when you come through that back door, pal, you better it's showtime. So bring your game, will you? Because you're not. And I wasn't. And number 3, I told you that I don't get that Mr. Scharenbroich stuff. And I speakers that haven't been beaten up, I can't believe any speaker that's worked with youth hasn't been in a gymnasium, not
Sure.
fellowship with Christian athletes or 4-H. I'm talking real kids in a gym
Yeah.
with a lousy sound that you've been through on a Friday afternoon before Christmas break.
That's got to come with a trigger warning.
It was just beaten up. And so, I mean, my ego got handed me to a plate a long time ago. And so anytime something pleasant happens, it's a bonus. But and it drives me crazy when I see speakers whose ego is just so far ahead of them. They don't know. I've seen speakers that have performed on stage, they're not doing well and they don't know. And I'm thinking, how is that even possible? But they don't know that they're dying or that they're average. But go back to my earlier statement, because of the respect and love that I have for Sue and her advice and her insights, she's made me a better person, a better man, a better husband, a better father. And I've trusted her instincts, both professionally and personally, on how I am as a person. I mean, I remember when our daughter, we have 3 kids, Michael, Matt, and Kate. And when Kate was 8 years old, she took me off the side. She said, do you know how she looks at you? You're the center of her world. And that's going to change when she comes into puberty. And so this is a very small window for you. You better make use of it. And I did. I was good to Kate, but then I became great for Kate. And sure enough, when the change started happening, it was mom and her together. Then she came back to me when she was 18. But now, I mean, our relationship is incredible. But it's that kind of spousal advice, parental advice about that window of time for a little girl looking up to their dad and to make use of that. So I've wanted to marry somebody I respected and trusted, and I won the lottery when I met Sue. So I have had those times you're talking about, but she's given me a good wake up calls whenever that happened. And now I just kind of get it.
Yeah. Yep. I want to go back to your transition from youth to corporate in 2003, I believe, is when this kind of began to happen in earnest.
It did. Good for you.
I'm curious, looking back, what you think you did well, what you could have done to shave time on that transition a little bit. I know for me, when I was switching from, say, speaking to students to adults that work with students, I felt like for the first 18 months, I was giving a variation of my student talk a bit more seriously and wearing a collared shirt instead of a t-shirt. I just felt like it took me a while to go, this is not a remixed speech. I need to throw out the old speech and I need to craft something entirely for them. And yet, yes, bring the decade of being in gyms and speaking to youth with me, but this is a different thing. So looking back, when you made that shift, what do you feel like you did well, and what advice would you caution against to speakers who are making that shift?
Well, I started speaking professionally in 78. And then around 2000, I'm in a gymnasium in Canada speaking to a group of students, and I was doing a bit I did on high school romance from elementary school, middle school, and high school. And when I was doing that piece, I was looking at the audience and I just felt dumb. I felt like an old guy. You said it earlier, from the older brother, from the boyfriend to the older brother to the uncle to now the grandfather. And when you make that transition, you go, I felt dumb. And that the bell went off my head of, hey, bud, time to move on. Because this is going to happen more, not less. I had the stage, but I didn't have the page, just as you said. So it was the Seinfeld creative time, the documentary comedian. which we referred to earlier. It's time to write, time to find a premise, time to get something. And it was handed to me on a silver platter. And and that's my whole presentation. I had a presentation to teachers to kick off the year in Neenah, Wisconsin in 2003. Yeah. And I'm flying to Milwaukee, and I'm driving north to Neenah in a rental car. And I had just stumbled on the Harley-Davidson 100th year anniversary. And 500,000 bikers, black leather bandanas. I mean, cool. And I just pull over to different sites, and because I'm curious, like you are. And I kept hearing people walking up to somebody else going, "Oh man, nice bike." And you'd see this nod, and you'd see this connection between the two. So that's cool. So the next day I'm talking to teachers in Neenah, and I said earlier, you have to play with your material, you have to ad lib, you have to come up with stuff. I just said, it's Friday, and on Tuesday after Labor Day, kids are coming into your classroom for that first day of school. And did you see all the Harleys and everything? I was going on. I said, I heard there's people, and they kept going nice bike to each other. And there was this cool thing going on. Well, when you stand by your door and kids are walking in, instead of saying good morning or hi, if you go, Josh, I can't believe you're in my class. It's so great. That's a nice bike.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience nodded. And I went, ooh, ooh, there's something here. And then I kept working it. And an ad lib turned into a little bit turned into a piece turned into a major piece, turned into the premise, turned into the brand. People can't find Mark Scharenbroich. People don't even remember my name after I finish speaking. As a matter of fact, now with Nice Bike, most people call me Mike. I get more letters and emails saying, "Hey, Mike,
Nice.
enjoyed your presentation." I hear that a lot. They can't find Scharenbroich. They can't remember Sharon, but they can't remember my first name. So when they tell them, "Hey, Jess, there's a speaker you got to hear. What's his name? I don't know." But it was all about Nice Bike. It was about Nice Bike. Just Google Nice Bike. Well, bonanza, right? So that's a marketing answer. That's a transition answer. And then the page started to develop. What is Nice Bike? What's it mean to me? What is connecting with others all about? What are the 3 points that I could really stress about how to connect with others in a meaningful way that people will remember?
So I view speaking to students and staff as vastly different things. And then as an outsider to the corporate space, I have no expertise here. I would view speaking to teachers and staff as vastly different than a corporate audience. Is that accurate? Or do you feel like kind of students are its own thing and adults are its own thing as long as you contextualize and customize and tailor appropriately?
My student presentation was completely different from my staff presentation. My staff presentation was different than my parent presentation. My parent presentation was different than my business presentation. 3 completely distinctive. Now, might there be a little piece in each one of the 3 that works for everybody? Yes, universal. But 3 different avenues as far as the message and how it's delivered.
So there was a period of time where you and Eric Chester were doing keynote camps. Are y'all still doing those, or put a pause on that?
They stopped with the pandemic. Susie, it was Eric Chester, an amazing Eric Chester, Hall of Fame speaker. Youth market started there, and then did gangbusters in the business market. Eric, Susan, and I trained 20 speakers, keynote speakers, at a Friday, Saturday, Sunday camp. Just intense, and it was really fun. And pandemic hit, and we let it go, and we just haven't jumped back on it. But Sue and I will continue to coach other speakers every now and then that contact us.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I'm curious what kind of pattern recognition you saw in those groups of folks. Can you talk? To me, I think there's almost like an athletic component in speakers that sometimes you see people even early on or midway through their career, and there's just a lot of just God-given talent, charisma, just dynamism that you go, I don't know how you could teach someone to have that they just have it. But there's also this kind of putting in the reps, putting in the work, being very judicious about like taking it seriously. Can you talk about, sure, to have both would be nice, but working with those different campers at Keynote Camp, what separated the good from the great and the great from the extraordinary?
What a great question. I mean, one thing that you've earlier part of your question and your observation about people being dynamic. There's a speaker by the name of Dennis Waitley, old school, DEN1NIS, Dennis Waitley, and he was very kind to me when I was a youth speaker. Dennis was on stage and did not move a muscle, did not move up from the stage, did not pay, didn't do anything. Not a lot of facial expression, pretty straightforward, but it had some really funny moments, had some touching moments, but not dynamic at all, but just one of the best, just a killer presentation. And other people are, big and loud and move and yada, yada, yada. So, you don't have to be one or the other. It's your style that you find that you're the most comfortable in instead of trying to be something you're not. I'm going to go back to Stage Page and the writing of those people that have got an observation, idea, a message, a method that changes how an audience thinks, feels, knows, does. Take something that they've just heard and can impact their own life in some way. So it's not about the presentation as much as it is about the impact.
So do you think the average speaker, they would be better off spending more time outlining their talk? What is this key line? How can I trim this key line? How can I make this line more punchy, more memorable, more impactful than just sheer reps? Because otherwise it's like you're kind of working off of a base recipe that maybe isn't quality. What I hear you saying is step one, let's get the ingredients to the highest quality possible. And then let's play around with, okay, do we sear this first? Do we do a reverse sear? Do we sous vide it? Do we start it in the oven? Is that, am I hearing you correctly?
Ask your speakers to sit down and give me, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Give me an outline of your presentation. And let me look at it in 5 minutes. And look at the ones who give you a clear cut, boom, boom, boom. This is what I do. And those that just have to write things out and they're over here, then they're over there. What a great starting point to, and then number two, how much of that is original and how much of that did you get from somebody else? Where you researched it or you're quoting somebody that everybody else. How many lines that are impactful in your presentation are your lines and how many of those are from famous authors? I remember one guy at Keynote Camp, super good guy. Susie and I would watch all the videos before the people came to Keynote Camp and get a feel for their demo and things that they had. And we watched 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever we could. And somebody would say something. I go, wow, that was good. And Sue, she started Googling it. Of course it's good. That's Norman Vincent Peale.
Right, and sure.
Yeah. It said something else. Well, of course that's good. That's Susan B. Anthony. And it was just like God.
Yeah, my goodness, Susan B. Anthony at Keynote Camp. Congratulations, Mike. Yes.
This guy riffed 10 quotes from people that he never attributed to any of them. I had a Hall of Fame speaker that is just making buco money and just very successful in a huge career. And wow, this guy is really. And I listened to him in a speech he spoke before I did, and he said, I've always felt that the two most important days of my life are the day I was born and the day I discovered why. I'm going, that's not yours. That's Mark Twain. Twain wrote that line. You can't. And I wrote him, I said, hey, tell you, I really enjoyed your presentation, but that's Mark Twain's line. I think you need to attribute it. So it goes back to what I said earlier on if your best moments are somebody else's quote or a YouTube video or the soldier coming home and the little girl running up to him in the football field and giving him a big hug and people to cry. I go back to the page. Start to create, start to write, start to go deeper. There's a wonderful video. I don't know if you can find it, but it's Louis C.K. Talking about George Carlin. He spoke at the New York Library. They had a moment for George Carlin after he passed and what he learned from George Carlin. Because he said I was just doing dog jokes and cat jokes and fart jokes and stupid stuff. And Carlin said, you need to go deeper. You need to take that onion layer after layer after layer and go deeper. And Louis C.K. said, and so I'm working a Chinese restaurant buffet, and I'm doing comedy. Why I'm even there, I don't know. And I said, he said, I did a line where I said, I've always wondered why people threw their kids in dumpsters. But now after I've been two, I kind of understand. I don't agree with it, but I kind of understand. And it got this reaction from the audience like, oh, man. He said that was so much better than the fart joke laugh. Mm-hmm. And he said, I started to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it became my own material, my own discoveries, my own observations. And when you own your material, like I said, it's like your own children. You know that. People can't take it from you. They can't steal it because it's not theirs. And if they do it, it just doesn't work as well.
Agreed. Well, Mark, as Dennis was an inspiration to you, you have been, for many years from afar, for me, an inspiration. And I've wanted to have this conversation and pick your brain for so many years. So it's been a real treat to chat with you, pick your brain, hear your insights. Thank you so much for your generosity and kindness. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. It's very kind of you. But your advice, the video you made about if you want to be a speaker, it's not a road to riches. It's not going to happen overnight, especially now. You're going to have to work at it. It's what you said. You're going to have to work at it. And you're going to have to get beaten up. You're going to have great successes. You're going to get beaten up. And when you get beaten up, they make you a lot better. But you got to earn it. You got to earn it. Pay your dues.
Agreed. Well, thank you for your time, sir. Anything you want to plug or share before we wrap up?
No, you're very sweet to me. That's very kind. And I'm happy I'm just still speaking.
It shows.
Deal, man.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks
this was great. This was great.
I hope there's something there. Was there anything there at all?
Come on, stop that.
It's a lot of gold, yeah.
Of course there was.
We'll go for bronze. If you get a bronze, that's okay.
Yeah.